Welcome to This Explainer. You know, when we think about the global AI race, our minds almost instantly jump to Silicon Valley, right? But today, we're unpacking a really fascinating shift happening right now over in East Africa. We're going to look at how Kenyan universities are literally transforming themselves from being mere AI consumers into actual AI producers. They're moving way past those flashy headline-grabbing pilot projects and getting down to the hard work of real institutional adoption. If you want to understand how a massive educational sector shifts gears in the age of artificial intelligence, you are absolutely in the right place.
So let's jump right into this with a somewhat uncomfortable truth that surfaced at the June 2026 Global Data Festival in Nairobi. Picture this room. You've got Kenya's Office of the Special Envoy for Technology, major international development orgs, university heads, and even a diplomatic delegation from Jordan, all sitting together. And the elephant in the room? Everyone realized that while Kenyan universities desperately want to lead on AI, most just aren't quite there yet in practice. It begs a question we've all probably asked in our own jobs. Are we actually using AI, or are we really just talking about it?
To see how they're closing this gap, here's our roadmap for today. We're going to cover the ambition versus adoption gap, building AI muscle memory, collaborating for the AI era, moving from consumers to producers, and finally, accessing AI education today. All right, starting with Section 1, the ambition versus adoption gap. Let's figure out what's holding institutions back. A recent global report pinpointed something called the ambition versus adoption gap. Simply put, this is the measurable lag between leadership being super enthusiastic about AI and the actual boots-on-the-ground integration of it into everyday operations. Basically, institutional efforts to turn AI hype into real value consistently fall behind leadership's optimism. It's a super common pattern globally, and it's definitely visible in Kenya. But, as we're about to see, Kenyan institutions are taking some highly specific, practical steps to close that gap way faster than global headlines might have you believe. Which brings us to Section 2, building AI muscle memory through everyday administration. You know, it is so easy to get distracted by flashy new AI degree programs and abstract theories. But the real, foundational work, it's not happening there. It's actually happening in the unglamorous, day-to-day operational core of the university. I mean, let's be real. Anyone who has ever tried to get a simple form processed by a university admin knows they could use a little automated help. We're talking human resources, admissions processing, and resource planning. This is where the bedrock for true institutional adoption is actually being laid. So instead of just abstract theory, these universities are prioritizing practical tools. For example, Kababi University and Kenya Methodist University, or KIMU, recently teamed up to tackle their operational core. Backed by the Association of Commonwealth Universities and led by Principal Investigator Dr. Manasseh Sean, they are building an AI-powered recruitment platform specifically for HR professionals. The goal here is completely straightforward: totally overhaul university hiring by making it more efficient, transparent, and fair. They are tackling massive, real-world administrative headaches first. And this matters way more than you might think at first glance. By using AI for basic operations like hiring, universities are building what we can call institutional muscle memory. Think of it exactly like athletic conditioning. Once the university figures out how to use AI responsibly and effectively in its own back office, it builds the structural confidence needed for those massive, complex academic rollouts later on. Basically, they're learning to walk with AI before they try to run a marathon.
Okay, let's move on to Section 3, collaborating for the AI era.
Because here's the thing, you absolutely cannot bridge this adoption gap in a silo. Strathmore University, one of Kenya's top institutions, recently stepped up to host a massive AI roundtable, and they brought together deans and faculty from a huge variety of institutions to tackle shared challenges. We're talking folks from Meru University, Multimedia University, University of Eldoret, Moranga, Kimu, Tharaka Nithi, all the way to Rongo University. It's just an incredible example of an entire academic ecosystem pooling its brainpower. And this wasn't just a talking shop. The roundtable ended with a hard commitment to shared infrastructure planning, focusing on 3 very specific steps. Step 1, using AI to support the rollout of Kenya's new competency-based curriculum as those students hit the university level. Step 2, navigating local infrastructure gaps together because you obviously can't do AI without the right tech backbone. And Step 3, establishing ethical frameworks that actually make sense for Kenyan academic settings. They fully recognize that global AI guidelines don't always perfectly copy-paste into local realities.
Let's zoom out a bit for Section 4, from consumers to producers.
At the 2026 Kasibe Conference at the University of Nairobi, engineers and policymakers laid down a pretty powerful challenge. They argued that African nations have got to stop just consuming imported AI technology. Instead, the mandate is to transition into being producers of AI solutions, building tools perfectly tailored to their own unique environmental and industrial challenges. Specifically, they're looking at crucial life-or-death areas like food security and renewable energy systems.
There was a quote from the conference that perfectly captures the heart of this entire explainer. The goal is reframed from catching up with global AI adoption to building AI expertise that solves specifically Kenyan and African problems. This distinction right here, this shift from consumer to producer, is the absolute core of how Kenyan academic leaders are viewing their role in the global tech landscape right now. It fundamentally changes the game. It is no longer just a race to catch up, it's about building homegrown expertise for homegrown challenges.
Finally, let's hit Section 5. Accessing AI education today.
So, what does this actually mean for someone trying to learn right now? Well, formal education options have expanded incredibly fast to meet some radically different needs. On one end, you have the Open University of Kenya offering a full Master of Science in Artificial Intelligence. Meanwhile, the University of Nairobi is offering accessible introductory courses for different entry points. And for working professionals who don't have time for a full degree, institutions like Kenyan University and the Kenya Education Management Institute are stepping in with short, punchy, technical courses on AI fundamentals and ethics. The whole ecosystem is widening to make sure there's a pathway for everyone.
So bringing this all together, what is the big takeaway? Kenyan higher education is making a very deliberate structural shift from simple experimentation to deep institutional adoption. Yes, the distance between leadership ambition and ground-level reality is a hurdle. But through these specific administrative platforms, shared infrastructure planning, and collaborative research, Kenyan institutions are visibly closing that gap. They're definitely not waiting around for a finished global playbook. They are writing it themselves, one platform and roundtable at a time.
And that leaves us with a question to turn back over to you. As you look at the ambition versus adoption gap in your own workplace, your own school, or your own industry, ask yourself, how can you start building that local muscle memory today? How do we move from just talking about flashy tech to actually producing real solutions for our own specific challenges? Thanks so much for joining me for this explainer, and I hope this sparks some amazing ideas for your own community. Catch you next time.